We are live on the Bullpen Podcast. Baseball is back. We are back. We are having our first episode of the new season officially because we have baseball back, and that is super exciting. We told you last week that if there was a deal done, we would have an emergency podcast or get back to a once-a-week schedule. So myself, Shy Bears 1985 on the Twitterverse, and my co-host Adam Kunos at Kunos19 are back for this episode to talk baseball, talk about all these crazy free agent frenzies, talk a little bit about this new deal. We're excited to be back. So welcome. Adam, how are you tonight?
I am fabulous. Baseball is back. The Sox gear is out. The Barons behind me. I am beyond rejoiced. The last week, or actually the last 6 days, have been just absolutely fucking insane with the amount of free agent signings, trades, and spring training just kicking off on Sunday. We got games kicking off tomorrow on St. Patrick's Day. So this has been a crazy-ass week overall.
Yeah, definitely, man. I said that I thought a deal would be done by Friday. They gave us a one-day present and gave it to us on Thursday, so that was nice. Free agency really didn't get going too quickly. Everybody thought, shit was going to hit the fan come Friday, and then it really didn't get going until Saturday. But that's all right. We are happy you're here with us on the Bullpen Podcast. Follow us on all of your podcast hosts, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your fun little podcasts. Everybody's got a podcast now, so I'm sure you know where to find us. We're also sponsored by Fanatics, so head on over to Fanatics and get all of your spring training gear, your MLB gear for this season. Pre-order your 2022 New York Mets World Series gear.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, here we go.
And let's have some fun. So MLB and the Players Association reached a new deal on Thursday, March 10th. Players voted 26-12 in favor of the deal. The executive players in the MLBPA all voted against the deal. 0 for 8, but the players voted it 26-4, so that's how we got those final numbers. Owners voted 30-0 to ratify the deal later that night. So, shocker, owners win again, but who cares? We have a deal.
We do. We have a deal.
Players were always going to get hosed, but Adam, tell us the key takeaways from the deal.
All right, so key takeaways is it's a 5-year deal, so this deal will expire in the 2027 or 2027 offseason. There's an increase in minimum salaries, new pre-arbitration bonus pool, the 163-game tiebreaker. So those 163 games that we all look forward to, we all pray for, those are done. There will no longer be a tiebreaker game at the end of the season for wild card, for division. It's solely going to be based off record, winning percentage, head-to-head matchups. So they're going to pretty much go off standings. We get a 12-team playoff format now. So we're adding more teams to the playoffs. So we're going to have 3 division winners from each league plus 3 wild card winners. So your top 2 division winners, the best 2 division winners in each league will get a first round bye. And then you have the 3rd division winner who will face up against the wild card, and 2 wild cards. Other wild card teams will face off. So if you look back to last year, Chris, Toronto would have been that 3rd wild card in the American League. So we would have seen a Toronto Blue Jay playoff team last year had this been in play last year. And Cincinnati, of all teams in the National League, if I look at the standings correctly, would have been that 3rd NL wild card team. So
Who was in the play-in game? Wouldn't it have just been whoever lost the play-in game? Like wasn't it the Cardinals that lost the play-in game?
So the Cardinals did lose the play-in game to Los Angeles, but if I'm going to look at the standings right now, but they're going to go with the 3rd division winner versus 1 wildcard team, and then the other 2 wildcard teams face off, I believe, in a 3-game format. The 3 games will be held at the team with the best record. So obviously your division winner will get the home field advantage in the wildcard round, and the other wildcard matchup, whoever has the better record will get home field advantage. So it's going to be like what we saw in 2020 with the wild card series. It was kind of a preview, if you would say. But let me look up the standings.
I don't say. But I think dude, 162 games is plenty time to, build your case for a playoff spot. I thought 163rd game was stupid, and it coming down to one, like that Cardinals team very well could have beat the Dodgers, and then we would have had a worse National League playoff system. So I'm not opposed to this format. I mean, it's how the NFL's done it for years, so I'm fine with this. If you can't figure out a tiebreaker system other than playing a one game playoff for your entire 100, what the fuck did you play 162 games for if it's going to come down to one game?
I don't know, but here you go, Chris. Last year's NL wildcard standings. Dodgers had the best wildcard record at 106-56. Obviously, St. Louis at 90-72. Cincinnati at 83-79. They finished 7 games behind St. Louis and 1 game ahead of Philadelphia. They would have been your third wildcard team.
So the Dodgers would have played whatever division winner would have played the third division winner, and then St. Louis and the Reds would have played.
I believe so. So you would have seen an early NLCS matchup, Dodgers-Braves, pretty much.
Okay. All right. So the Cardinals don't get fucked in that situation. I was confused. All right, that's fine.
So we also have a universal DH. So for the first time, we have a DH in both leagues. For those old school players, old school fans say, I love the NL format with the pitcher. I love it, but the DH is now a National League item, and you're going to see more and more teams now kind of shop that free agency for the DH. We've seen a couple deals that have been going around. So DH in both leagues. I absolutely love the DH. I mean, save the pitching, save your pitchers, save them for the pitching mound, bring a bat in to rake in some runs.
Absolutely. I'm a fan of this as well, mainly because of player safety. Pitchers, it's kind of weird because pitchers do a ton of cardio. I mean, you see them out there like running even before games on days off. They do a ton of cardio, but they're not really athletes all the time. If you look at like a Bartolo Colon and CC Sabathia wasn't the best athlete when he played. David Wells, these guys aren't super fine-tuned athletes. And even a guy like Jake DeGrom, who is in very good shape, got hurt twice on the base paths last year. So we don't need to see that kind of thing happening. I'm all for a universal DH. Growing up a National League fan, I always thought pitchers should have to hit, and make them hit in the American League and take it away from the American League rather than add a DH to the National League. But fuck it, whatever. I mean, it's not that big a deal to me. Plus, like, it presents a lot more options for lineups in the National League and how managers can deploy lineups with, bench players that were less used. Plus, it gets more contracts for the players out there. These pitchers were already getting paid. So now you're going to have teams, like Adam said, sign extra players to play that DH role and make more money. So that's kind of a bonus for the players in a way. So, yeah, what else we got?
The last thing, which I think is kind of a big thing, is there's going to be a joint committee comprised of 4 active players, 6 members of Major League Baseball, who will be tasked with adopting new rules. So they're going to be looking at pitch clock. They're going to be looking at baseball size, base size, defensive positioning, like looking at the shift. Do they keep the shift? Do they limit how many times you can shift in a game? And they're going to be looking at automatic strike zone. So what we talked about last week with an automatic strike zone, kind of eliminating that human error when it comes to calling balls and strikes. Those are just a couple things they're going to look at. So that's kind of the core way from the takeaway from the CBA. the key thing is they have a deal. A deal has been ratified. Spring training is in full swing. We have games kicking off tomorrow. Now, this is going to be a spring training, not like what we saw in 2020 with their summer camp where they had about a 2-week period to ramp up a 60-game schedule. They are going to play a full 162-game season. Now, some of these schedules that have been coming out are going to look a little crazy. You have a lot of doubleheaders that are already scheduled. I looked at the White Sox schedule. They have 2 separate doubleheaders against Kansas City throughout the year. I believe there's one team that has one team ends in LA. I'll have to look at, I think it's the Rockies end in LA for a 6-game series, if I read that correctly. So there's going to be just a lot of crazy schedules going forward. And there's going to be a lot of focus on keeping players healthy for this season because, again, you are ramping up a spring training that's usually 6 weeks, 7 weeks, depending on if players arrive early. You've shortened that by 3 weeks now to just a 3-4 week spring training to where April 7th, that's where we're going to be kicking off the regular season. And that's what players and managers have to go to now is getting into playing shape before that April 7th opening day comes, which is going to be challenging.
But if they attended the Players Union camps in Arizona and Florida, they should already be ahead of the game. And they're professional athletes, and this is their job. So if they are not ready to play a sport like baseball, where you can get yourself physically in shape pretty much by yourself, then that's on you.
Exactly.
Football's different. You know, you're hitting each other. Hockey's different. You're hitting each other. Basketball's a little different. You got to get team chemistry down and stuff like that. But I mean, obviously baseball's got, double plays and figuring team chemistry out like that, but that's not as much of a big deal as just getting yourself in shape, doing batting practice, running, stretching, throwing, fielding. I mean, this is fucking baseball, dude. You got to be ready. I mean, it's really not that difficult. Regarding some of the rule changes, you were talking about something that made me think. Oh, so this is actually just kind of funny. The automatic strike zone. So, like we talked about how there's like a black box that sits above home plate and it calls balls and strikes, and then it radios down to the umpire. What if the umpire's just like, nah, fuck that shit, ball? He's just like, nah, I don't think so. I'm just going to call whatever I want. I thought it'd be pretty funny if that happened, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's 45 days, right? Before, or that they have to make the decisions within.
Yeah, it's a 45-day grace period that they will, I believe, announce the rule. They'll give that 45 grace period for teams to get used to the rule, kind of read about, get ready for it, and then they'll be informed. I don't believe it's going to take place until 2023. So I think we still have a year until this goes on, but I believe 2023 is the first year that this will actually kind of kick in to where you'll see some of these new rules. And one of the rules I'm actually in favor for is a pitch clock. We talked about this last week. You see kind of play clocks in the NFL, NBA. They have their set play clocks. NHL doesn't really have a play clock because it's a continuous game on ice. But NFL, you get 40 seconds to set your offense and to snap the play. NBA, you have 24 seconds to get the ball to the other end of the court and attempt a shot. I think it's fair that you give a pitcher 30 seconds, 35 seconds to get set, get the pitch, and actually deliver the pitch to home plate. So, again, don't know what the official timing of the pitch clock is going to be, but I like the pitch clock. They've used this in AAA. A lot of these rules they have put in minor league systems. So you've seen this in single A, double A, AAA. Is now going to make its way to the major league level, and I think a lot of fans are going to be in favor of these rules. One rule that I think may take some getting used to is the shift ban, which now that I'm thinking about it, I'll be kind of happy to see the shift ban go into effect because I want to see hitters kind of play a little more with the defensive. I want to see these defensive alignments, but not all load onto one field. I want to make a hitter earn a hit, not just say, I see one player down on the left side who's playing right off second base. I'm just going to lay a bunt down third base and walk my ass to first base. No, you have to earn your hit.
So the pitch clock's interesting. Looks like they're looking at 14 seconds with no runners on, 19 seconds with runners on. I'm looking at a tweet where a guy said he's in favor of a pitch count because there was an at bat where a Houston Astro took 1 minute and 30 seconds between pitches. That's freaking ridiculous.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. But like Adam mentioned, they've been doing this in the minors. It shortened games from 3 hours and 2 minutes down to 2 hours and 41 minutes. So that's a good 20-minute difference, about 2 minutes an inning. So it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you're at a game and you're sitting there for 3 hours, it can get longer. And it's a 162 game season, like I mentioned, so there's no reason to drag it out. Let's just keep it moving. I'm not opposed to a pitch clock.
No, and then one thing that will be different: no more 7-inning doubleheaders. It'll all be 9-inning games. They had talked about eliminating the ghost runner from extra innings, but now they're talking about bringing back the runner on second base. So that's still kind of in limbo right now. I saw a tweet where they may test if the All-Star game goes in extra innings, doing a home run derby to determine the winner. So we'll see if that works. So
yeah, a lot of fun rule changes, or maybe not fun, but a lot of changes coming to the game of baseball, and some good, some bad, but a 5-year deal, man, they can change things so quickly. Plus, we've seen how baseball will move on something if it's not working, similar to the sticky situation from the last few seasons, and having folks get checked and whatnot. So now we get to talk about the fun stuff.
Let's talk about the fun stuff. Chris, you want to kick it off with your favorite, or do we kick it off with your Mets, or do we just go with the most shocking free agent signing?
Well, the Mets didn't make a real big free agent splash. They kind of did that already, before the lockout. I know there's been, the biggest free agent I think out there was Chris Bryant. Still, Carlos Correa is still out there. He's a big name still kind of hanging out, and there's a few other ones that we'll talk about. But Chris Bryant, what did he do?
Chris Bryant signs with the Colorado Rockies, 7 years, $182 million. No opt-out clause in his contract. He stays on the West Coast, but kind of moves towards Rocky Mountains. Chris, that is your hometown, so that is an interesting signing for me, because I was almost sold that Bryant was going to be a Met. You sent me a text message after the lockout was over saying that soon Chris Bryant's going to be a Met, and I was actually thinking there's a good possibility that Chris Bryant's going to wind up in the Big Apple in Queens in Mets pinstripes. I'm a little shocked by the Colorado signing, especially with the way they
have cried poor for so long.
Yeah, and with the way that they ended with Arenado and shipping him off to St. Louis, the limbo with Trevor Story right now in Colorado. I didn't think they were going to take on a huge free agent like this, but they kind of just shocked baseball by signing Chris Bryant. So he's going to be in a very hitter-friendly ballpark. I mean, some of those balls off his bat will probably fly off with the humidor in that stadium and the zero altitude that he'll be playing in.
Zero altitude?
Well, elevation, something like that. You get high in Colorado. Let's be real.
It's not the altitude, bro. So I think it's actually a good deal for the Rockies, considering what we've seen from like Machado and Lindor, and even Baez got 24 million, and Chris Bryant only gets 26. To me, Chris Bryant is a much more valuable piece to a baseball team, considering he can play third or left or right or center. I think he's played second and first. The man pretty much plays everywhere except pitcher and catcher. So I think having an all-star type player like Chris Bryant in Colorado for the next 7 years is a good deal for them, but it is honestly a little odd that they didn't re-sign Trevor Story. They didn't even try and trade him at the deadline last year. It was a kind of a, it's just Colorado's a, it's just, it is a very oddly run organization, to be honest. So that's the big deal. Chris Bryant signs with the Rockies, so that's a pretty hefty contract. Um, the other really big deals that I thought were big is I saw Kyle Schwarber signed and I missed what the deal was, but looking at it now, 4 years, 79 million for a guy that like has been on a 1 year deal for I swear like 3 or 4 years in a row. It's surprising that the Phillies decided to give him 20 million for 4 straight years. They also signed Jeurys Familia from the Mets. Don't know what that contract is. I think it's probably a 1 year deal. So the Phillies making a couple moves. What do you think about Schwarber getting 20 million over 4 years, or 20 million annually for 4 years?
I think it's a smart signing for Philadelphia because, like I stated, you now have a set DH. You can fill him in at that DH slot in Philadelphia. Citizens Bank has a very nice porch on left field that he can just drive the ball to, and he's even be able to pull the ball to right field. So I think for Philly, that's a smart move. If you're looking for that DH player, Schwarber is that versatile DH player that you can put in that lineup. You can throw him in the outfield from time to time, but if I was the GM in Philly and I was in the front office, I'd be going down to the manager's office, pencil this guy in at DH for 162 games or 150 games. Throw him in the outfield a couple times just to keep his legs fresh and fielding fresh, but mostly keep him at DH.
He's had some health problems though, right?
Yeah, he hasn't been the most healthiest player. Back in 2016 when he was with the Cubs, he was coming off an injury when he rejoined the team prior to the postseason. He spent some time in the minor leagues, and he was actually even questionable prior to that Cubs title run in 2016. So he has not had the greatest resume when it comes to health-wise. So that's why I say keep him at DH. Keep him healthy at DH. Give him 4 bats every game. Give him a day off every once in a while. But just keep him at the DH level.
Yeah, he hasn't played. I mean, he hasn't played over 100 games in. Well, obviously, the last couple of years have been different, but yeah, he only played 72 games for the Nationals last year and 41 for the Red Sox. So I guess that's a full season. So maybe he's okay now. So I would like to say best of luck to Kyle Schwarber in Philadelphia, but I don't like the Phillies. So Zach Greinke returns to Kansas City, and Ian Kennedy returns to Arizona. So some guys coming home to their ball clubs. The other really big deal that I liked is the Cubs signed Japanese superstar Seiya Suzuki to a 5-year, $85 million deal. That's a pretty big contract considering Ohtani got like $2 million a year to come over. That's a massive deal for the Cubs, and from what I've heard, Suzuki is supposed to be very talented. The other big money deal was the Yankees brought back Anthony Rizzo on a 2-year, that fucking $16 million a year for Anthony Rizzo. That seems like a bargain. Good God.
It is a bargain, and I thought that Rizzo could have gotten a little more for just a 2-year, $32 million deal. I thought he could at least got maybe a 3 or 4 year deal, upwards close to $50 million. Just with he's such a versatile player. I mean, he's definitely your solid first baseman. He can definitely fill in the DH. Yeah. Yankees got him for cheap. I will agree. Yankees got him for cheap.
Well, good for Rizzo that, I if the Yankees want to pay me $16 million a year, that's fine with me. I'll go ahead and take that.
I mean, I'll definitely take $16 million a year. I'm not going to complain. Going back to that Cubs signing real quick. it's always interesting when a team brings on an international player, especially from Japan, of how quickly they're going to transition to the American version of baseball. Obviously, Japanese and American baseball leagues are stark different. There's a stark contrast and difference about how the game's played, the pace of the game, and just the overall atmosphere. You can look at a couple of former Japanese players who come over: Ichiro Suzuki, Tadahiro Gucci, Shingo Takatsu, Hideki Matsui, who've all made significant impacts for their team. And you've had some that haven't. I mean, Daisuke, when he came over from Japan after the World Baseball Classic, we all thought that he was going to be the next biggest pitcher for Major League Baseball. Granted, he won a title with the Red Sox in 2007, but then he just kind of fell off the radar. I don't remember how long he lasted in the league for, but it'll be interesting to see what he does with the Cubs and how quickly he transitions to this system of baseball that is going to be a little different from him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Just looking at his statistics, he looks, he's got great statistics, but like Adam said, it's a different game, and we don't know how well that's going to translate. Who is your favorite Japanese player to come into the major leagues? Give me a position player and a pitcher, Adam.
One of my favorite pitchers, actually, so I'm gonna be a little biased here. They both play for the White Sox. Relief pitcher Shingo Takatsu, because he had that funky sidearm frisbee pitch that kind of just like had hitters in limbo. I got to see him close a couple times in Chicago. He was good. He was one of my favorite pitchers. And I got a tie because I've seen both players, Ichiro Suzuki and obviously Tadahiro Iguchi. Obviously Iguchi because he came over in his first year with the White Sox, helped them win a World Series. It was like an unknown player coming in. They weren't really sure how it was going to translate into the game, and he had a pretty good career with the White Sox. But Ichiro, I mean, you talk about a player who just came over from Japan, just made an instant impact to the game. From one thing, his batting stance, he goes up, he has the batting stance where he just kind of points the bat at the pitcher. He kind of just like aims at the pitcher's like, I'm going to hit whatever you throw at me. And then as he's hitting, he's already halfway down the first baseline. I mean, 3,000 hits both in Japan and the United States. A great career with Seattle, New York, and Miami. Man, he was just one of my favorite players to see come over from Japan play the game because he played it, I think, perfectly. He was just a pure ball hitter. He did hit for power, but he was a pure ball hitter. He could pretty much spray the ball all over the field with ease.
Yeah, Ichiro was special. I liked Hideo Nomo.
Hideo Nomo was a good one.
He had such an interesting delivery, and he was a lot of fun to watch. So I think Ichiro and Hideo Nomo would be my two favorite Japanese players to come over. But onward and upward with this crazy, just the Oakland A's fire sale. They traded Matt Chapman to Toronto, Matt Olson to Atlanta, who signed an extension of 8 years with the Atlanta Braves for, I think, $172 million. They traded Chris Bassett to the Mets, and the Mets also signed relief pitcher Adam Ottavino. And the Oakland A's, once again, low market team, just fire sailing everybody. What do we think about that, Adam?
Well, you said this last year that you kind of saw this coming in, Chris. You peeked into your crystal ball. You've seen the future, and it is correct. But I thought this came a little early for me. I thought this would have been done during the season. I thought they would always like, let's see how the season plays out. How can we compete? Obviously, the front office looking and saying, you know what? Let's just start from scratch. Let's just start rebuilding right now. Let's trade these players. Let's get some prospects. Let's get some young players on this team, and let's try to build around some young core players. The Chris Bassett trade to the Mets, I actually really like. I mean, obviously, if you remember Chris Bassett, he had that horrible incident in Chicago last year where he took the line drive off the head, and I was actually watching a video on MLB.com where he he was talking about how he had the stitches around his eye, how his eye was still kind of swollen when he returned to the dugout in Oakland, and it was just a horrific scene. I'll let you guys, whoever's listening, go YouTube that and make your own like kind of assumption of how you take it. But I think that's a smart move for the Mets because you get him because he's still a good versatile pitcher, and I think he's going to help your rotation overall be kind of that third, fourth pitching depth for your starting rotation. And then you have Chapman to Toronto. That is kind of surprising because they got Trevor Simeon in the infield, so you're going to kind of mirror them in the infield, and you got a good versatile infield now with O'Shea, Chapman, Simeon, and Vlad Jr. at first. That's going to be a good infield for Toronto.
Definitely. I think Toronto also signed left-handed pitcher Yusei Kikuchi from the Mariners. So the Blue Jays are making a push this year. They think they have the talent to get it done. They've added a lot of pieces in this offseason, along with at the trade deadline last year. Good offense. Now they have good pitching to go with it. Adding Chapman just solidifies that offense even more so. So yeah, we're gonna see. I mean, that's why I bet the Blue Jays to win the World Series, along with the Mets. So let's see if we can make some futures money. So I mean, once we do our divisional winners episode, we already know where I'm at. So onward and upward, the Milwaukee Brewers signed Andrew McCutchen to a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. We're thinking this is probably right along with the universal DH rule to help that lineup out. Kutch hasn't been in the. I mean, he's still a good fielder, right? I mean, he's still fast.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a good fielder, but I agree with kind of title. I think he was more of a signing for the universal DH. I believe Milwaukee will be using him more as a DH going down. I mean, they could stick him in the outfield. He's still a good, reliable fielder in the outfield, but I would see it more of a DH for that team. And he reunites with Christian Yelich, which the last time they played was on the 2017 Team USA World Baseball Classic Championship. So they know each other really well. So I know they'll enjoy playing with each other in Milwaukee. And then my White Sox made some what I think are some good signings going forward. We signed relief pitcher Joe Kelly. If you remember him, he does towards the Houston dugout, which I absolutely love. He signed a 2 year, $17 million deal, so he kind of beefs up that back into the bullpen because we're all thinking that Michael Kopech is finally going to make that jump from the bullpen to the starting rotation with Carlos Rodon signing in San Francisco, so he'll kind of take the spot that has been vacated by Rodon. Vince Vasquez signs a 1 year, $3 million deal. And then the deal that I believe is undervalued right now is Josh Harrison, former Athletic, signed a 1 year, $5.5 million deal. I would assume that he'll be taking over the second base role that the White Sox have struggled to fill the last couple of years. So he'll fill in at second base for the White Sox. So those are some of the key signs that the White Sox have made. Chris, your thoughts on my White Sox with these signings, and be nice.
I love Joe Kelly. One of my favorite relievers. He's got the swag. He's got the fiery attitude. Who did I say he looked like the other day? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
I don't remember.
I think Joe Kelly's a good signing. I think Harrison is a good signing as well. Not a whole lot of information on Velasquez. I just can't think right now. But yeah, I think the White Sox bullpen last year was a pain point. They added Craig Kimbrel. Yeah, I was going to call him Huber. Craig Kimbrel to the back end of the bullpen, and it didn't really do what we thought it would do, right? I mean, he didn't really bring what we thought he would. Joe Kelly is going to be your 7-8 guy, set up for whatever that other closer guy's name is that was cussing in the All-Star game. I can't think for shit right now. Anyway, no, I think those are good depth signings for the White Sox. It's a good young team with a senior citizen manager like the Mets have as well. So I mean, yeah, see you in the World Series, buddy.
I know. I mean, can you just imagine a Mets White Sox World Series? My brother-in-law is a huge Mets fan. My parents will have to make sure we're at that if we watch series together, that we'll play nice. We won't curse. We'll give earmuffs to my niece so that way she doesn't hear her dad and her uncle just cursing each other out during the game. But I mean, I agree with some of these signings. I think that Joe Kelly is going to be a good versatile 7-inning guy going in for the White Sox. So I like these signings here because, I mean, the White Sox are going to be your odds-end favorites to win the AL Central next year. Don't say
I like the Guardians, man. Guardians of the Galaxy. Nah, I really don't. The San Francisco Giants made a couple moves as well. We already touched on it a little bit with Carlos Rodon from the White Sox signing a 2-year, $44 million contract with the Giants. Kind of surprising considering his medicals that he got a 2-year deal over $20 million. So good for Carlos Rodon. They also added Jock Peterson from the World Series champion Braves on a 1-year, $6 million deal. Pretty solid money, or pretty cheap deal for a starting outfielder. So that's good for the Giants. Staying in the National League West, the Dodgers signed infielder Hanser Alberto to a 1-year deal. Also brought back Clayton Kershaw. There's been some news about Trevor Bauer recently getting his suspension essentially extended. Do you think we see Trevor Bauer this year?
I don't think we'll see him this year. I can, if I had to place money, and if you listen to this podcast, you know I'm not the betting person on this podcast. As my co-host Chris, he is the one who knows betting more than I do. We don't see Trevor Bauer for the first 2 months of the season. That's from, I would say, April 7th to June 7th. We don't see him at all. I mean, Major League Baseball is going to do their own investigation. Obviously, he was cleared of all charges on the legal side, but Major League Baseball has the final say to say, nope, we're going to suspend you for the season, half season, whatever we think. They're going to make that final call. But the first 2 months, we don't see him at all. Not even like at a training facility in Arizona or even a Dodgers facility. Well, you can't even go to the Dodgers facility in LA. He's kind of barred from that right now. So do you think this kind of ends his career?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I was just going to say. Like, I mean, if not this year, when? You're going to have 2 full seasons off pretty much and be able to come back. I mean, what would be baseball's advantage to letting him come back? But at the same time, if he's innocent, of these charges, it's not really fair to him. But it seems like a where there's smoke, there's fire kind of situation, or baseball would have let him come back already.
No, I agree. I mean, I think baseball is being smart. They're taking their time with this one because I think just the way he's kind of acted around the clubhouse and kind of his attitude on the field. I think they want to get this one right in saying they're going to uphold the suspension or not suspend him at all. So I think they're just taking their time. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a decision on his status when we get closer to opening day as teams finalize the roster. So, I mean, when the Dodgers get ready to finalize the roster, we'll probably have a little more on where he will be going and what he will be doing with that team moving forward.
Whatever. I'm just glad the Mets didn't sign him now. And now we're not dealing with that shit. Also staying in the National League East, the Rockies shored up their shortstop position that they let go of Trevor Story with a Jose Iglesias signing That is not Julio Iglesias' son. That's Enrique. So don't get them confused. Moving over to the American League West, the Rangers traded shortstop Isaiah Kinner Falefala to the Twins. I butchered that name. For catcher Mitch Garver. Both were starters, but Garver's had some injury problems. The Rangers also signed Martin Perez to a 1-year, $4 million deal. And the other big trade we had was the Cincinnati Reds traded left field superstar Jesse Winkler and third baseman Eugenio Suarez to the Seattle Mariners for right-handed pitcher Justin Dunn, center fielder Jake Fraley, and left-handed pitcher Brandon Williamson, also a player to be named later. Reds seem like they're going on a fire sale, which is a little odd considering they would have been a playoff team last year.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I think it's weird that Cincinnati is going kind of the Oakland route. They're doing a fire sale. I mean, would you really call it a true fire sale, or would you just say they're just kind of dumping some cap space?
We'll see. If they trade Luis Castillo, then it's more than just salary dumping. But I think he's on a team-friendly deal, so it would be a good time to move him and get some assets. The last move is the Royals traded Mike Minor over to the Reds for left-handed pitcher Amir Garrett. So there have probably been some other minor transactions that we didn't get a chance to touch on. Obviously, not all of these free agent moves and trades are that big of a deal, but some of them are going to have big impacts on the upcoming season. Did we touch on the Yankees-Twins trade?
No, I was just about to say, so the Yankees and Twins had a trade earlier this week, and actually kind of a shocker. The Yankees sent catcher Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela, again, butchered that name, to the Twins. Urshela for Josh Donaldson and Ben Revert, which I think the main reason that the Twins got rid of Donaldson was to dump that contract that they signed him to, because I think he wasn't producing like he had in Atlanta in 2019. So I think it was a smart move by Minnesota to get rid of him. I am more than happy to see him out of the AL Central. Have fun, AL East opponents. You can deal with him. Gary Sanchez, not so much happy seeing him come to Minnesota because he is a good power hitting catcher. Are you a little shocked by that move, Chris, that Gary Sanchez was dealt from the Yankees?
I'm almost more surprised that Urshela was, but I think, all kinds of odd transactions are happening. But yeah, it's surprising to see the Yankees move on from both of these guys and to trust Josh Donaldson. That's a big contract, and we'll see if he can kind of revert to the form that got him that big deal. But he hasn't had the best, statistics since signing that big contract.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's going to a very friendly hitting park that is Yankee Stadium. Obviously, Target Field in Minnesota did have some friendly dimensions, but I think his hitting will be more suitable for Yankee Stadium, and then he'll obviously travel to Fenway a little more, Rogers Center, Camden Yards, and the Trop throughout the season. So he's going to be playing in a little more of a friendly hitter schedule in the AL East than he did in the AL Central, but again, I'm happy to see him out of the AL Central, not in a Twins uniform, so that just makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a douche anyway, too.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that reminds me is going back to when the White Sox clinched in 2020, that he hit a home run, came across, and he kind of had words with the umpire, came back and kind of slid during the home plate and got his ass tossed. So, I mean, I was happy he got tossed from the game. We won, so I was happier.
There you go. Well, there are still some big name free agents out there. Freddie Freeman won the World Series with Atlanta last year. Had been in Atlanta for a long time, but as we talked about, they made a trade with the A's and brought in a replacement first baseman, Matt Olson, who's going to do well in that park. Carlos Correa last year with Houston won the World Series in 2017 with Houston, has been there since 2015.
Astros on that title? I say Astros on that title because of the trash cans.
Whatever. I thought you said Astros on that title. I'm like, what? Yeah, the Astros won that title. What do you asterisk?
Asterisk, yeah, little star on that title.
Little star on that title. Well, Nick Castellanos, and there's a deep drive, is still available out there. Last year with Cincinnati was a 2021 All-Star Silver Slugger and all MLB second teamer with the Tigers in 2013 to 2019 and with the Cubs. And then, of course, there is still Trevor Story out there. So some big names yet to be signed. We will update you when they do via our Twitter page and obviously talk about them more in the coming weeks as we get into spring training and closer and closer to real baseball that counts in just under a month.
I know, under a month. It's hard to believe that it's March 16th right now, and then about 3 weeks it's going to be April. Then we got opening day on April 7th, unofficial national holiday. We should get that day off, drink beer and eat hot dogs and watch baseball all day. I'm just saying.
It's opening days are bananas. If you live in a city that has baseball, it's they shut streets down, they party, first thing in the morning. I used to do Lyft and Uber driving, and when the Rockies opened a few years ago, it was a complete shit show downtown. It was such a pain in the ass. I worked until like noon, and then I was like, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. Just because it's such an event and it's so much fun. So if you have a chance to go to an opening day game, definitely recommend that. If you live in Arizona or Florida, definitely get out and check out some spring training games. Yeah.
I was about to say, opening day is definitely a fun experience. I had a chance when I was starting my wife back in 2012. We were in D.C. We wanted to go tour the Nationals Park. And we ended up walking into opening day. We got 2 tickets for staying only for $30 total. So we ended up going to opening day for Nationals. They faced the Reds that day. It was a palming 50 degrees outside. I'm in a spring jacket that was not meant for that weather on the DC Harbor. But the stadium was just absolutely fantastic. The atmosphere was phenomenal. They did the American flag in center field. They did the flyover, the introductions. Oh man, I was legitimately a little kid, and I am surprised my wife said, I'm still going to marry this idiot. And she did.
Well, God bless her.
Yes, God bless my wife. She is absolutely amazing.
Well, we are, excited again, like we said, that baseball's here. News is going to keep trickling in on these free agents. We'll be with you next week, next Wednesday, and every Wednesday until probably November or later, because baseball's back. We have a deal. Moves have been made. Everybody should be excited. Hit us up on our Twitter page. Let us know what you're most excited about. Let us know what trades you think were good and what trades were bad, who you're looking forward to seeing sign somewhere. Let us know who your favorite teams are. But that's all I have for tonight. Adam, what else you got?
I got nothing. Again, spring training games kick off tomorrow. It's just something I'm looking forward to. I know personally, the way the schedule dropped, they have the White Sox Cubs playing 2 split squad games at each other's park. So it's just, if you're in Chicago, that's just a good way to kick off spring training with a good old Chicago rivalry game in Arizona. But again, yeah, if you're in Arizona or Florida, get out some of the spring training sites. I know Arizona's a little more convenient because they're pretty much grouped in together. Florida's a little more different because it's all along the coast. Unless you're in Central Florida and you got the Lakeland training facility for the Tigers. So, but get out, get excited. Baseball's back. MLB Network's going to be on pretty much 24/7 in my house. Baseball's back, Chris. Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
So let's do it.
Cool, buddy. All right. Well, we will talk to you next week, everyone, and you have yourselves a great week and a great night.
Have a good night, everyone.